I packed my good coat, the charcoal wool one I bought the Christmas before my husband passed, and I told myself this was going to be a good trip. A good trip. I repeated it while I zipped my suitcase. I repeated it while I locked the front door of my house in Knoxville. I had not been on a plane in 4 years, and my son had called me on a Tuesday evening in October and said, "Mom, we want to do something special for your 68th birthday. Come to Denver, stay with us. The kids want to see you," and I believed him. I believed every word. I should back up a little, because the story doesn't make sense without the background. And the background is this. For the past 6 years, I had been quietly paying for things. It started small. My son and his wife bought their house in 2018, and they were short on the down payment, not by a little, by $22,000. I had that money in a CD my husband left me. I told myself it was an investment in their future, in my grandchildren's future, and I wired it without a single condition attached. My son said thank you. His wife said thank you. We did not write anything down. Then there was the car. His wife's transmission went out the following spring, and they needed a reliable vehicle because she was driving the kids to school. $400 a month for 18 months. I told myself it was temporary. Then there was the credit card debt they needed to consolidate, and the medical bill from when my younger grandson had his tonsils out, and the new furnace the winter after that, and I kept a little notebook in my kitchen drawer. Not to shame them. I want to be clear about that, but because I am 68 years old and I needed to keep track of what I had and what I had given away. The notebook had $47,000 written on the last page. That was the total, over 6 years, not counting the birthday gifts and the grocery runs when I visited, and the plane tickets I bought myself to come see them, because they never came to see me. Not once in 6 years did my son drive to Knoxville. But I did not say any of that when he called me in October. I said I would love to come. I said, tell the boys grandma's coming. I booked the flight the next morning, a direct flight on a Thursday, arriving in Denver at 2:15 in the afternoon. My son said he would pick me up. Said it twice. He said, I'll be there, Mom. Don't take a cab. I'll be there. I wore the charcoal coat because Denver is cold in November, and because I wanted to look like someone who had herself together. I brought a tin of the oatmeal cookies my grandsons used to beg for when they were small. I brought a birthday card my neighbor had signed for me. She's a sweet woman. She lives alone too, and she wished me a happy trip with both hands clasped around mine in the driveway. I thought about that as the plane lifted over the mountains. Someone had held my hands and wished me well. We landed 12 minutes early. I texted my son from the gate. We landed, heading to baggage claim. He read it. I could see the 2 blue check marks. He did not respond. I told myself he was driving. You can't text and drive, and Denver traffic is not forgiving, and he was probably already in the cell phone lot waiting. I collected my suitcase from the carousel, the green one with the yellow ribbon tied to the handle so I could find it, and I walked out through the sliding glass doors into the arrivals area, and I stood there, and I looked. He was not there. I looked again the way you do when you're sure you've just missed something. I walked the length of the pickup lane. I checked the far end where the taxis wait. I came back to the middle, and I stood in front of a concrete pillar, and I called him. It rang 4 times and went to voicemail. Hey, you've reached. Leave a message, I said. Sweetheart, it's Mom. I'm outside at arrivals. Just give me a call when you're close. I kept my voice easy. I did not want to be the mother who panicked. I found a bench near the doors and I sat down with my suitcase at my feet and my cookie tin in my lap and I waited. 15 minutes. I called again. Voicemail. 30 minutes. The sky outside the glass was going gray the way it does in Denver in November. That flat pewter color that means the cold is settling in for real. A family came through the doors next to me. A young couple, 2 little kids, a grandmother type trailing behind them, and the moment the kids saw her, they both ran at her legs and she laughed this enormous laugh and grabbed them both and I had to look away. I looked down at my hands instead. My wedding ring. My husband's been gone 11 years and I still wear it on my right hand because the left felt too empty. 45 minutes. I called my son's wife. She picked up on the second ring and I heard noise in the background. Music, voices, the particular blur of sound that means a room full of people. Oh, she said. And then there was a pause, and the pause told me everything before she said another word. Oh, I thought, didn't he tell you? We moved the dinner to Friday. He said he was going to call you. He did not call me, I said. Another pause. I'm so sorry. We're at a thing right now. Is there a shuttle? Or an Uber? I sat very still on that bench. I had my cookie tin in my lap, the oatmeal cookies my grandsons used to beg for. I had flown 2 hours to be there, and my son was at a thing, and his wife was asking me if I knew how to use Uber. I'll figure something out, I said. You enjoy your evening. I hung up before she could apologize again. Not because I was being cold, but because I knew that if I heard one more word, I was going to cry right there in the Denver airport in my good charcoal coat, and I was not going to do that. I had not cried in a public place since my husband's funeral, and I was not going to start now. I opened my phone and I looked up hotels near the airport. There was a Marriott with a shuttle, $112 a night. I booked 2 nights because I had a return flight on Saturday, and I was not calling my son to tell him I was leaving early. I was not giving him the satisfaction of knowing he had broken something in me. I took the shuttle. A young man in a red vest loaded my suitcase. I thanked him and he said, "Happy travels, ma'am," and I almost lost it right there in the parking structure because of the word happy. The room was clean and quiet. There was a desk and a chair and a window that looked out over the highway and the distant mountains going dark. I set my cookie tin on the desk. I hung my coat in the closet. I sat down on the edge of the bed in my traveling clothes, and I did something I hadn't done in a very long time. I opened my little notebook, the one from the kitchen drawer. I turned to the last page, the one with $47,000 written at the bottom, and I read the whole list from the beginning. The down payment, the car, the credit card, the furnace, the medical bill. 6 years of believing that giving was the same thing as being loved. I closed the notebook and I ordered room service, a bowl of tomato soup and a grilled cheese sandwich. And I watched the evening news and I ate my dinner alone in a hotel room in Denver on the night before my 68th birthday, and something shifted in me. Not dramatically, not like a door slamming, more like a window finally closing after being left open for years, sealing out a draft I had learned to pretend wasn't there. My son texted at 9:47 p.m. "Mom, are you here?" Tried to call, didn't go through. I looked at the message for a long time. His phone had rung just fine at 2:30 in the afternoon, both times. I put the phone face down on the nightstand and I went to sleep. In the morning, I did something I had not done since before my husband got sick. I ordered a real breakfast, eggs and bacon, and a small stack of pancakes, and I ate it at the desk by the window while the mountains turned pink with the sunrise. Colorado mountains in the early morning are something. I had forgotten that. I had been so focused on arriving and being received and being wanted that I had forgotten to simply look out the window. My son called at 8:14. I let it go to voicemail and then I listened to it. "Mom, I am so sorry. It was a miscommunication. I thought Cheryl had called you. She thought I called you. We want to see you today. Please call me back. The boys keep asking where Grandma is." I noticed he did not say I'm sorry I wasn't there. He said it was a miscommunication. In 43 years of raising him, I had learned the difference between an apology and an explanation wearing an apology's clothes. I called him back at 9. I kept my voice the same way I used to keep it when he was a teenager, and had done something that required a very calm, very clear conversation. "I'm heading back tomorrow," I said. "Mom, no. Come over today. We'll do the dinner today." "Your father and I raised you to keep your commitments," I said. "I made one to myself this morning. I'm going to spend today doing what I want to do." He started to talk over me. My son is 41 years old and he still does this thing where he fills silence with words to prevent me from thinking clearly. I waited until he ran out of them. "I love you," I said. "I'll let you know when I'm home safe." I hung up, and then I did something I never in my life would have predicted. I called the concierge and asked about tours. There was a mountain tour leaving at 10, a shuttle up into the foothills, a stop at a scenic overlook, lunch at a small restaurant in a town called Evergreen. $48. I booked it. There were 11 other people on the tour, a retired couple from Ohio, a young woman traveling alone who told me she was a nurse taking her first real vacation in 3 years, a pair of sisters, probably in their early 70s, who finished each other's sentences and shared a bag of trail mix without discussing it, and there was a woman sitting alone near the back of the shuttle, late 60s, close-cropped silver hair, reading glasses pushed up on her head, who looked at my cookie tin when I got on and said, "Please tell me those are homemade." Her name was Roseanne. She was from Albuquerque. She was a retired school teacher, 31 years, 4th grade. And she was in Denver because her doctor had told her to stop sitting in her house, alone grieving, and go somewhere, anywhere. So she had packed a bag and driven north, and here she was. Her husband had died 14 months ago. She said it the way you say it when you've said it enough times that the words no longer knock the wind out of you. But the truth of it still shows in your eyes. I told her my husband had been gone 11 years. Does it get easier? She asked. Different, I said. It gets different. We shared the cookies at the overlook. The mountains spread out in every direction, enormous and indifferent and beautiful in that way that makes your own troubles feel correctly sized. Not small, exactly, but proportionate. Roseanne stood beside me with a cookie in her hand and said, "My daughter thinks I should move closer to her. In Phoenix, do you want to?" She thought about it. "I want to," she said. "Does that make sense?" It made complete sense. I had spent 6 years wanting to want things for my son and his wife, wanting to believe the money was building something, wanting to believe the distance was circumstance and not choice. At lunch, I ordered the trout. Roseanne ordered the soup. We sat across from each other at a table by the window in a restaurant in Evergreen, Colorado, with snow starting to dust the street outside, and we talked for 2 hours. We talked about our husbands, about what it means to get old in a country that doesn't have much patience for it, about our children, and what we had expected and what had turned out to be true. She was funny in a dry way that snuck up on you, she said. My son calls me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for exactly 14 minutes. I've timed it. And I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in I don't know how long. When the shuttle brought us back to the hotel, we stood in the lobby and exchanged phone numbers. She was going to drive home the next morning. I was flying. We agreed to keep in touch in the vague way you do when you've shared something real with a stranger, not knowing if you actually will, but meaning it more than you usually do. I went upstairs and I sat at the desk and I opened my laptop. I have a lawyer, a woman I've used for estate planning since my husband died. A practical woman, no nonsense, good at her job. I wrote her an email and I told her I wanted to revisit my will. I did not write the specifics. I just said I wanted to revisit it, and that I would call her the following week, and that I had been doing some thinking. I sent the email. I closed the laptop. I looked out the window at the mountains, which were dark now, the last light sitting just at the ridgeline. My son called again that evening, and again I let it go to voicemail, because I needed one more night of not explaining myself to anyone. One more night of the room being quiet and the decision being mine. His voicemail said, "Mom, I know I let you down. I don't know what else to say. Call me when you're ready." I noticed he still did not say he was sorry he hadn't been there. He said he had let me down, which is a softer thing, a thing that keeps the weight distributed more evenly than I was wrong would have. I played it twice. Then I set the phone down. In the morning I checked out, tipped the young man in the red vest, and took the shuttle back to the airport. My flight was at 11. I had a window seat. I watched Denver get small below me and then disappear under clouds, and I thought about Roseanne standing at the overlook with a cookie, asking if it gets easier, different. That's what I'd said. Sitting on that plane, looking at nothing but cloud, I thought about what different would look like from here. My son loves me in the way some people love things they take for granted, genuinely but carelessly. That is not something I can fix by being more available or more generous or more patient. I had tried all 3 of those for 6 years and I had a notebook to show for it, but I could stop arranging my life around the hope that he would show up the way I needed him to. I could stop flying toward people who did not meet me at the gate. Roseanne texted me when I landed in Knoxville. Just, "Safe drive home. Thank you for the cookies. Best 68th birthday present I got this week." And then a small laughing face. I stood in baggage claim and read it twice. It is a strange and tender thing, the way kindness finds you when you've stopped expecting it from the usual places. My neighbor was watching my cat. I texted her that I was home, and she came over with a bottle of wine and 2 glasses and sat at my kitchen table and listened while I told her the whole story. She didn't say much. She is good at that, at listening without rushing toward the part where she fixes it. At the end, she poured a little more wine into my glass and said, "So what are you going to do?" I thought about the email to my lawyer. I thought about the notebook in the drawer. I thought about the mountains in the early morning going pink. "I'm going to stop," I said. "Stop waiting for him to become someone he isn't. Stop buying my way into a relationship that doesn't need money. It needs something neither of us knows how to give the other right now." She nodded slowly. And I'm going to call a woman I met in Colorado, I said, and maybe plan a trip to Albuquerque. My neighbor smiled at that. She raised her glass. I called my lawyer on Monday morning. We talked for 40 minutes. I did not cut my son out. He is my son, and I am not a cruel woman, but I made changes, significant ones, the kind that reflect what has actually happened over the past 6 years rather than what I had hoped was happening. And then I called my son. He picked up immediately. He said, "Mom." I said, "I'm home. I'm fine. I need to tell you some things." I told him calmly and clearly, the way I used to tell him things when he was young and needed to understand something important. I told him that I loved him and that what happened in Denver had hurt me deeply. I told him that I was not going to keep funding a relationship that operated on his schedule and his terms. I told him the notebook existed and what was written in it, and that I was not presenting it as a debt but as a record of what I had believed and what I had chosen to believe and what had turned out to be true. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I didn't know it was that much." "I know," I said. "That's part of the problem." He cried a little. My son has always cried easily, which is a thing I used to find tender and now found complicated. I let him cry. I did not fill the silence with comfort. After a while he said he was sorry, really sorry. And this time, I don't know, maybe because he'd had a moment to sit with it rather than deflect, it sounded like the real thing. Not a performance of sorry, actually sorry. I told him I appreciated that. I told him we would figure out what came next slowly, over time, and that the figuring out would require him to show up differently than he had been. I told him I was not going anywhere, but I was also not waiting anymore. Not the way I had been. After I hung up, I sat at my kitchen table for a while, with my coffee going cold. My cat climbed into my lap. Outside the window, the November light was doing that thing it does in Tennessee, thin and gold, and a little melancholy, like it knows its time is short. I opened a new email to Roseanne. "I'm thinking about coming to Albuquerque in the spring. There's a botanical garden there I've always wanted to see. Would you be up for some company?" I hit send before I could overthink it. She replied within the hour, "I'll make the guest room up now."